And the numbers are in. Payday, you want payday? I know that. Canelo Alvarez, he still got it. He still got the star power. A brand new report just came out from SBJ, and they just quoted some numbers that I want to go over in this video. Make sure you stay tuned to the end. Subscribe for all your boxing needs. Now, I'm going to say this quick preamble. I always tell you guys, there is a lot of low quality content available, and the disinformation era, the misinformation era, and non-factual fake news is running rampant, especially in the sport of boxing, which is basically like the wild, wild west. Point blank, period. You guys can listen to me. You can listen to whoever you want. Brand X. It doesn't matter. But I'm telling you what it is. And I noticed a lot of people have this propensity to, they just want to be first. Let me be first, and it doesn't matter if I'm correct. Doesn't matter if I'm accurate. Now, the problem that I have with that is I'm here to grow the sport of boxing. So it's kind of counterproductive to what I do. I told you guys, I'm the Bruce Wayne of Batman and the Batman of boxing, right? So it's counterproductive to have bad information just floating around. And what's worse is you have people and content creators who will put out bad information constantly, and then when proven wrong or when the information doesn't check out, they won't even so much as do like an editor's correction and say, hey, I put out bad information. So when it came to the Canelo versus Berlanga numbers, you'll see there's other reports that were higher than this. The report that just came out, again, I always cite my sources so you guys can check the description, says it did around 650,000, right? There's other reports that said 750, 850, a million, or whatever other numbers, but the strongest indication that we have of the numbers is around 650,000 with the $17 million gate, which is very good indeed. But again, there's all types of different numbers and people making up their own numbers. So it shows in the piracy era, the streaming era, Canelo can still put on big events. Now, I got a couple different angles that I want to approach this video. For one, you had Turki Al-Sheikh, who literally went on record and said, and almost made it like he's throwing down the gauntlet and he's challenging Canelo, and he approached it aggressively. Like, basically, we're going to eat Canelo on his own date. Canelo wants the Mexican date, and you have a guy from Saudi Arabia, the kingdom, and Dana White, a white dude from Boston, and basically they're supposed to take over the Mexican dates with Merab versus Sean O'Malley. And I said from the beginning, because I am the best in the business and it's not even close, that would be a mistake. Canelo is actually Mexican on the Mexican dates. It's not where you can just disrupt something that has been occurring for so long. Since Floyd Mayweather retired, Canelo basically inherited those dates, and he is of the heritage. He is Hispanic, he's Latino. He speaks Spanish. Dana White doesn't speak Spanish, to my knowledge. Turki Al-Sheikh doesn't speak Spanish, to my knowledge. So getting through with the audience that you're hoping to, I get it. They say UFC Noche and stuff like that, but it just is not sensible to go against Canelo down the street. The other issue with the UFC Riyadh season at the Sphere, UFC Noche, is the tickets were insanely priced, whereas you have a Mexican known brand and star, which is now proven by these numbers, very strong numbers, and he's down the street in a combat sport like boxing for a much cheaper price point. And he's a bigger draw than Merab and Sean O'Malley, right? And then on top of that, this is just adding insult to injury. Sean O'Malley is the guy that I believe the UFC wanted to win. and he got dominated and lost bad, right? Where he's known as a knockout artist. He didn't even, like, his stand-up game didn't look like it did in past fights, right? His best work was like a knee. He hit Merab with a knee to the face and some front kicks, things like that. But Sean O'Malley is known for his hands, and he really couldn't get that off without running the risk of being taken down and things like that. So on top of all other things, your star person or the guy, because Sean O'Malley, keep in mind, he said that he's closing in on Conor McGregor in terms of being a superstar. So it looks like Sean O'Malley flew too close to the sun, the story of Icarus, right? You started biting off more than you could chew, feeling yourself a bit much, and thought you were like on a Conor McGregor level, and now you just lost your belt in a fight in a card that really was forgettable. So as I've stated, it was a bad look and a bad idea to challenge Canelo. Canelo is a gamesmanship. I think Canelo, baby, and Berlanga, I think they did a very good job of selling the fight for what it was, because here's the thing that's impressive with what Canelo did with PBC. Berlanga was nobody's first choice outside of Berlanga and his family and some Boricuas maybe. Nobody really said that that's the fight to make with Canelo Alvarez. Canelo kind of just picked him, and we all understand that and we all know that. And it just goes to show you that Canelo can take an obscure name, and credit to Berlanga, I've always given him credit in the buildup, stating that he did a good job on his part of being the villain and talking trash, and then they built it as like Mexico versus PR, Puerto Rico beef, and then Berlanga was doing the rest with the trash talk, talking about knocking out Canelo. He looked the part. He had the size advantage over Canelo Alvarez, and then Canelo speaking English has done wonders for him as well, because English Canelo is funny AF. He's super funny, and he's saying these things. And speaking of Riyadh season, I would be remiss to not mention this. And when I say these things, you guys say I'm hating, but you can't prove me wrong. Bud Crawford wants to be a star at this stage of his career, age 37, right? But he's not doing the things that people who have already surpassed you are doing, like Canelo. Why is it? Just ask yourself these questions. If I'm lying, let me know in the comment section. But you know in your heart, I'm not lying. Terrence Crawford has never done 1 million+ buys on pay-per-view. That's a fact. Why is it that you have Canelo Alvarez, whose primary language is Spanish? So his first language that he ever learned was not English. He didn't learn that until years later, you know, when he came to America and started fighting out here little by little. And over the last couple of years is where he's been a bit more comfortable doing full-on English interviews. So you have a person whose language is Spanish and English is not their primary language, and they're doing better job of promoting than the guy who's from Omaha, Nebraska, an American city, right? Make that make sense. Meaning Canelo was funny on Big Boy's Neighborhood, and he has this back and forth that went viral. He was on The Breakfast Club. He's doing videos that you're seeing on TikTok where he's being asked certain questions, and you know the captions are popping up and things like that. So all in all, Canelo's already bigger than Terrence Crawford, which we knew, but he's doing a better job of promoting the fight. And I've already given credit to Edgar Berlanga, so I'm not surprised by the strong numbers. It's based on the fact that Canelo is Canelo, and he has a lot of star power, and he had a good dance partner, not necessarily resume-wise or like that it was worth it, but it goes to show you, I keep telling you, belts don't matter. You guys want to focus on belts and stuff like that like it used to be. The world doesn't operate based on how it used to be, right? You got a guy like Berlanga who literally hasn't done anything, never been a champion, but star power of Canelo, coupled with PBC's promotion, coupled with Edgar Berlanga playing the WWE heel character of villain and talking greasy to Canelo, and then you produce strong numbers. So much to the point where these pay-per-view buys are very similar to when Errol Spence fought against Terrence Crawford, right? Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence did around the same pay-per-view buys, and that was for Undisputed. And these were they were the most respected guys at welterweight. So it goes to show you that Canelo Alvarez and also Gervonta Davis, they're the face of boxing, because Gervonta Davis with Ryan Garcia hit over $1 million just last year on pay-per-view. It looks like he did good business with David Benavidez for the Frank Martin card. And then now you have Canelo producing almost a $20 million gate with a guy that no one really even wanted to see him fight. Plus he was competing with UFC Noche down the street on fellow MGM property. And I think hopefully the UFC understands and learns that not to go against boxing, especially if it's a Gervonta Davis or a Canelo, because the UFC was reportedly $20+ million in the hole before the day of the fight based on production cost, right? It's been reported, I made videos about it, etc. They're now saying that the UFC Noche did a career, like they're saying it did the biggest live gate, but does it represent good business? Because let's say their gate is $22 million, but you are already in the hole over $21 million because of production costs, and you're doing all these graphics and stuff, which I told you guys, and I'll probably make a separate video. If you want that video, type the words Riyadh season. If enough people type Riyadh season, I'll know to make that video. But a lot of you guys hyped up the UFC sphere and Turkey and Riyadh season working with UFC. That doesn't automatically equate to good business and a strong business move, because you're dumping a lot of money into something. In fact, it's actually quite the contrary. Just like Terrence Crawford versus Madrimov, they dumped a lot of money into promotion, putting Crawford in a soccer stadium, getting all the bells and whistles and lights and firecrackers and fireworks and pyrotechnics and Eminem performing, and you're losing money, and the event is not living up to the expectation. And I think the same thing happened with UFC, but I'll leave that at that type Riyadh season if you want me to make that video. So Canelo and PBC, the partnership has proven to still be viable. And it just goes to show you, when you've earned your stripes like a Canelo Alvarez, apparently you can fight these guys like a Berlanga, and your fans are still going to support it. I mean, I also bought the pay-per-view too, because I wanted to support the event. I wasn't mad at it as much as some of the other people, and I was doing the watch party, so I always pay for the fights. So let me know what you guys think. $17 million gate against really a guy who wasn't a household name. Just shows you grassroots, old school promotion, a star mixed with the guy who's at least helping to sell the event, and this is what you could produce.